Coming up on Locked On Dodgers, the Dodgers didn't play yesterday, so we got a bunch of questions from you listeners about potential wild card matchups, Game 163, Cody Bellinger, Gavin Lux, and a lot more. So that's what we're going to be talking about today on Locked On Dodgers.
You are Locked On Dodgers, your daily Los Angeles Dodgers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yo, Dodger fans. Welcome to Locked On Dodgers. We are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 local sports daily podcast network. Locked On, your team every day. Make sure to join Walking Baseball Encyclopedia Paul Francis Sullivan, but please call him Sully on Locked On MLB every day for a unique look at the majors, both past and present. Subscribe to Locked On MLB today on the Odyssey app or wherever you get podcasts. This is a daily podcast covering the World Series champion Los Angeles Dodgers, bringing you the smart fans' perspective on our boys in blue. I'm Vince Samperio, Chevezerine Fiends, back here with Jeff Snider of Baseball Essential. I know you guys haven't seen my face a lot so far since we started YouTube, but I'm here for now, and I'm probably here for the rest of the week. I would hope so.
Yeah, YouTube has made me wish even more that I could grow facial hair because you've got that, like, I don't know, I just got this big fat face,
Yeah, facial hair definitely helps out, especially when you line it up a little bit. It looks nice on camera. So Dodgers didn't play yesterday. The Giants didn't play yesterday, so there was not too much to talk about on that front. But we did put out a call for questions, and we got a lot of good questions, a lot of different questions. So appreciate you guys for that. We're going to get into all that. We're going to start that off right here. But before we do, a quick reminder to subscribe or follow Locked On Dodgers wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. And make sure to tell your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers wherever. Do that. Let's start off with a few questions that we got that are all kind of lumped in the same category. And it's kind of around the wild card game, Game 163, potential matchups. We got a few questions here about basically who should the Dodgers start? Who do you want to play in the wild card game if it comes to it? Who are you starting in Game 163? And if they lose that, who starts the wild card? And, just basically a rotation alignment, how it's going to all work out if the Dodgers don't straight up win the division. There's a lot of different ways the Dodgers can go about it, but I think it's, fairly clear how they would go about it, Jeff. And honestly, even if they went through the gauntlet of a Game 163 and a wild card game and then into an NLDS series, I think the Dodgers are pretty well built for that. And the days off also allow them to be pretty well built for that.
Yeah. And obviously there might be a little bit of a question just because, if they're fighting for the division until the last day, they have a little bit less opportunity to set up their rotation the way they might want to. But, all in all, assuming that they can do what they want to do, just the way the rotation is currently set up, you've got Scherzer and then Buehler, right?
Yeah.
And so, if there's a Game 163, it would happen on Tuesday, on Monday, the day after the regular season ends. And so, you would assume that would be Max Scherzer going against the Giants. And then 2 days after that, on Wednesday, would be the wild card game. So if the Dodgers were to lose that game on Monday, then they would play on Wednesday in Los Angeles. So a Game 163 would take place in San Francisco. The wild card game would take place in Los Angeles with Walker Buehler on the mound. If they lose both of those games, they go home and everything else is moot. But assuming they win, if they were to lose 163, then win the wild card, then they start the division series back in San Francisco on Friday. And, then you'd be going with Julio in Game 1 of the division series. But because Game 163 was way back on Monday, you've got Scherzer ready to come back on regular rest for Game 2, and then a day off, and then Buehler ready to come back on regular rest for Game 3. So, we were talking a little bit before we hit record that the Dodgers are almost uniquely set up to be able to handle this, to have three guys. Like most teams don't have a guy as good as Julio to be their number one starter, other than the Brewers, in the National League. I don't think there's another team who's going to be in the postseason in the National League who has a starter as good as Julio, and so the Dodgers being forced to use Julio as their game one starter in the division series in this scenario, it's a pretty enviable position.
And the other part of that is if it's not Julio, it's Clayton Kershaw, who's been a game one starter basically since he came up and been in the Dodgers postseason for a long time. So, yeah, the Dodgers are obviously built for this, which is why we've talked about it. The wild card game is just a little scary because it doesn't necessarily bring out the best side of the Dodgers, which is their rotation depth and how they're running it. And the other part is, for a game 163, Max Scherzer, no better way to go. And even if somehow, I don't know how the rotation lines up right now for, like I said, if they play through for the division through the end of the season. But I mean, even if the worst came to worst, they're going to have one of Julio, Scherzer, Buehler, Kershaw starting a potential game 163, and then whoever doesn't throw that and whoever's on regular rest would throw a potential wildcard game. I've and even if it came down to like a fifth starter, Tony Gonsolin, you could do a lot worse than that. Obviously, that would be a nightmare scenario and probably wouldn't really happen. The Dodgers, I would imagine, would likely go with Scherzer or Buehler on 3 days rest potentially rather than go with Gonsolin. But, it's set up very well for them, and hopefully they don't have to go through all this. But if they do, they're set up for it.
Yeah, and I think they'd be more likely to go with some sort of bullpen game at the end of the regular season to set that up. And that's why, you could look at, okay, assuming everybody starts on schedule right now, the rest of the season, who would be lined up, but they can mess with that so much. They can give a guy more rest or skip a guy's start or have him do a 3-inning start knowing he's going to be going on short rest. So there's so much that really that's one of the benefits of having these two different shots where, they can play it by ear and see, okay, are we in the lead in the division? Have we overtaken the Giants? Well, then let's go for the jugular and not have to worry about game 163 or the wild card game. Are we trailing the Giants? Well, maybe we just accept the fact that we're going to the wild card game and we set things up for that, yeah. And that for me is almost the more interesting scenario. If the Dodgers did end up a game or two behind the Giants in the division, so it was just the wild card game on Wednesday. Well, that's 3 days after the regular season ends. So it's almost, most likely they could throw anybody they want in that game. And that's kind of the interesting question. Do you go with Scherzer or Buehler? And that was a one that Odie asked that was kind of related to that, just with Buehler's recent, quote unquote struggles, just hasn't been quite as dominant as he had been. Does that just tip the scales in Scherzer's favor for that game?
Yeah, I think it's Scherzer. If it's a do or die game, I think Scherzer's getting the ball. Obviously, you can define do or die game differently. If they head into the last day of the season tied and it's Scherzer's turn, do you consider that do or die, or do you consider skipping him, going to another route, trying to get the win a different route, and consider the do or die game 163 or a game wild card game? So there's a lot of different scenarios, and like I said, it's interesting to see how it'll play out. We don't really know. As to the other question that was part of that of who would you want to play or who do you want to play in the wild card? I don't want to play in the wild card game. And the way it's looking, it's the Cardinals. They're 3 games up on the Reds, 3.5 or 4 games up on the Padres. Realistically, 3 games up with about 12 to play, which is around what everyone has. It's pretty hard to drop the ball that hard, especially when the Reds haven't been playing well, the Padres haven't been playing well, and the Cardinals haven't been playing like great, but they've been playing well enough, obviously, to make the push and the run into the postseason. And at the very least, what I would say is with the Cardinals, if you're going to face Adam Wainwright, I'm more comfortable with this offense hitting Adam Wainwright and his 90-mile-an-hour fastball than seeing Luis Castillo or Blake Snell in a wild card game.
Yeah, I think I agree with that.
Yeah, so we're going to come back and talk a little bit about Cody Bellinger, Gavin Lux, and just kind of the Dodgers lineup here in the next week or so. So make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. We're back and better than ever. All eyes are on the gridiron if your eyes aren't on the baseball field. And it's time for another start to football season. Week 2 just completed. But as always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. With the new updated site and interface, even more odds, props, and contests, BetOnline.ag continues to be the number one source for everything football. Head to BetOnline AG on your laptop or mobile device to sign up today and receive a 100% welcome bonus with the promo code NFL100. That's double your initial deposit just for signing up. So don't forget to use the promo code NFL100. From baseball, football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games, don't wait to take advantage of all the amazing offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline is the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite sports, and BetOnline is also your online sportsbook experts. All right, Jeff, we're back, and I'll just keep bringing in these questions. We will have some more discussion rather than the one on, one off that we usually do. The next one comes in a kind of a group about Cody Bellinger. One of the bigger questions, which is more future based, is from at TobyG0220. Assuming Bellinger's struggles continue, what do you think is the best plan for next season? Start him off as your everyday center fielder, or start the season in a platoon role and let him earn his way on. But just getting into the rest of this season, how do you find a spot for Lux in the lineup once Pollock comes back? Do you play a lineup with Cody Bellinger in center field and maybe CT3 in center field if he's feeling healthy again and he gets going again? And kind of, I guess, the other part too is just what are they going to do with Gavin Lux if necessary? If he stays hot and they don't really have a center fielder between Pollock, Lux, and Betts, who are the best 3 hitting guys at the time.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because right now they have Pollock and kind of Taylor both hurt, and yet they've still been putting out major league lineups every day, which hasn't been the case most of this season. And so, we're kind of back to that point where we started the season of marveling at their depth, of saying, wow, you have AJ Pollock and Chris Taylor, 2, all-star caliber players injured, and yet you're putting out this kind of lineup. And it's going to be some hard decisions because Gavin Lux has definitely, I didn't get a chance to talk about him on yesterday's episode, even though he was one of the stars of the weekend. He has been hitting the cover off the ball, and he's got that speed, and he's playing pretty good deep. Other than breaking Cody Bellinger's rib, his defense has been pretty solid. I guess maybe the solidness was part of breaking Bellinger's rib. But I wouldn't be shocked to see Gavin Lux get some time in center field. We know he has the speed for it, and Chris Taylor had never played the outfield before, and then he ended up playing some center field in the postseason. He had probably 2 months of outfield experience by the time he was playing center field in the postseason, but he also had one of the biggest catches of the postseason in 2018 as a center fielder, right?
Yeah.
He was.
He was in left.
Oh, he was in left. That's right. But playing the outfield there. So we know that Lux can have the range. The ball is different coming off the bat from center field. So not everybody can do that, but athletically, I'd rather see Lux in center field than Pollock for sure. And maybe even than Taylor. Taylor is, he's a good center fielder. But I think it's pretty foregone conclusion that Lux is a better athlete than Taylor, faster than Taylor. And so probably, has potential at least to be a better center fielder. I don't know if he would be a better center fielder right now. And so maybe it's something they think about more for the future. But it seems like a lot of the answers we could come up with involve Cody Bellinger coming off the bench.
Yeah, there's really, unless you're strictly 100% all in on defense, that's the only way you can really justify Bellinger being in the lineup at all when Pollock comes back, just because, like I said, Lux has filled that role. Taylor, he had been struggling, but he's still being better than, what Bellinger's had. If Pollock comes back and stays where he's been at, then, Mookie Betts has got right field on lock. This is where it sucks a little bit that Mookie's not 100% healthy, and they probably want to keep him in right field, because the easy fix would be to put him in center. Whoever's hitting hot between Lux and Taylor goes in right, and then you got AJ Pollock in left. But, with Mookie, they'd rather keep him healthy and not as mobile out there in right field, which is fine. And, I'm kind of with you on the Lux thing in terms of it's going to be interesting. Do you just throw him out there at an important, crucial time and be like, hey, you know what? At the very least, we have a guaranteed playoff game, 1 game playoff. And we think that his bat will overcome what defensively, what he might struggle with, which would mainly be reads and things like that nature, which, could hurt in a potential playoff game, but not as much as in a regular season. So I'm honestly kind of down to let him go out there in center field and see what he can do. Trey Turner did it for the Nationals in 2016. They didn't have room for him in the infield. He went out there, played center field, was really fast and a good athlete. And, he wasn't the best center fielder, and he went back to shortstop the next season, but he was more than capable. And what Lux might miss sometimes in reads, he's going to make up for it with the speed and the athleticism. And if the way he's hitting, you got to keep that bat in the lineup, especially the way the Dodgers offense has been. So, I'm all for Gavin Lux, center fielder. They're going to play at Dodger Stadium. Maybe don't play him there with the Rockies, and that depends if Lux comes back. I mean, if Pollock comes back, center field's pretty big out there, but they're back at Dodger Stadium. Let them figure it out there.
Yeah, and then there's kind of the obvious Dodgers solution of Bellinger and Lux are both left-handed, Pollock and Taylor are both right-handed, and so they could just go platoon. Because Lux, even though he's been hitting the ball really well overall, other than his great minor league season in AAA, in his career, both majors and minors, he hasn't hit lefties very well, and so it would make sense, especially against a tough lefty, depending on, I don't want to look too far forward to who they might be playing in any given series, but, we do know that Corbin Burns and Brandon Woodruff both throw right-handed, and so even in a platoon situation in a series against the Brewers, you'd be looking at Gavin Lux probably, and the Giants don't have any left-handed starters who
That's
anybody's
Alex
afraid.
Wood.
Yeah, Alex Wood, but none who anybody's afraid of. And so, yeah, there could be just some straight up platoon stuff going on. But yeah, it'll be really interesting because there's just this depth that most teams don't have to or don't get to worry about.
Yeah. So, it's just all going to depend on health too. But Pollock doesn't come back and he's not right, then the things kind of always figure themselves out for the Dodgers. Especially this season, they haven't really, other than the starting pitching depth and overall in the pitching staff, they haven't really been able to show off the depth in the other side and the position players, just because guys haven't really played that well. But moving on, let's just get into some of these questions. This one's interesting from Brandon Johnson, our buddy Brandon John 442. Do you think that within the next 5 years we might hear about something nefarious that the 2021 Giants were doing?
I just realized in my caption I wrote Dodgers, but Brandon is specifically asking about the Giants. Let me fix that real quick. Sorry, YouTube. Yeah, basically, and I've seen this kind of floating around on Twitter a lot that, and I think it's mostly tongue in cheek, people calling the Giants cheaters or whatever, just because it has become a tradition that, many years, whatever team beat the Dodgers turned out to be cheating. I assume it's tongue in cheek, but maybe there is really an actual sentiment that the Giants must be cheating. And for me, it's hard to see it being a realistic thing. Not that they couldn't be cheating, but I don't know what Brandon Crawford could be doing that turned him into, having the best season of his career at age 94 or whatever it is. I guess if we just wanted to stick with straight up stealing signs, if he knows what pitches are coming, maybe that helps. I mean, that obviously would help, but it's hard to see how the Giants would be doing something like that. Hard to see them being willing to do something like that, especially with all the scrutiny right now. So yeah, I've just kind of assumed that everything was tongue in cheek because I don't really see much reason to believe the Giants are cheating. I think they're just A, really good, and B, playing above their heads a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, same thing. It's one of those where 2017, apparently there was internal player discussions about the Astros and things of that nature, but us as fans didn't really know about it or hear anything about it unless you were kind of really in the weeds. So in 2017, when the report came out last year, it was surprising. Whereas this one, I don't know, I don't think they are cheating, but let's just say in 5 years that happened, you'd be like, that makes a lot of sense. But other than that, I have zero reason to believe that they are.
Yeah. When you say things of that nature, I picture Stephen A. Smith's voice.
I can't do that voice, but yeah, he does say that a lot. All right, Jeff, you got one more question you want to ask before we head to the break?
Yeah, let's do the Mitch White question from
our pal Pat Dwyer.
Pat Dwyer, yeah, basically asking how salary works for a guy like Mitch White when he's bouncing between AAA and the major leagues, and it's pretty interesting, kind of, I guess. Once a guy gets put on the 40-man roster, even when he's still in the minor leagues, he gets a raise. It's not much of a raise, But he goes up to $46,000 a year, which is, almost enough to live on. And after making, in the minor leagues, most minor leaguers make $10,000 or $15,000 a year. So it is a big raise. So as soon as a player gets put on the 40-man roster, they're at $46,000 a year. Now the major league minimum is $550,000, something like that. And so when a guy gets called up to the big leagues, that $550,000 is split up over the 184 days or whatever it is of the regular season. And so the actual major league minimum salary is a daily salary. And whatever that is, it's, $3,000 a day, somewhere in that ballpark. And so when a guy gets called up, if he spends a week on the major league roster, he just earned himself about $21,000. And then he goes back to the minor leagues, and the same thing, that minor league salary is on a daily basis. And so the $46,000 split over 160 days or whatever a minor league season is. And so obviously it's a lot less, but yeah, so he just gets paid the daily rate of whatever roster he's on, whether it's the minors or the majors. And obviously the major league roster is a lot more. And so, some guys who get called up and then they get hurt. And so they spend time on the major league injured list and they're getting major league money for that. It's all about when you get hurt. So yeah, Mitch White this year, with bouncing back and forth, he's spent, I would guess he spent a total of about a month and a half or so on the big league roster. And so he's probably made $150,000 this year or something, which is, by far the most he's made in his career so far, because he's been a minor leaguer and minor leaguers get paid peanuts. So it's obviously not as much as a guy spending the whole season in the big leagues, but it's definitely better than what he's used to.
Yeah, the only thing I have to add to that is it is life-changing money. We remember, or maybe you guys remember, the Kyle Garlick article when he came up, and he was basically with the Dodgers for a month because of injuries. And because he was up a month and with the money he made, for the first time that offseason, he wasn't going to have to work 2 jobs to, just in order to survive. He used to deliver doors to houses, and he used to work as a bar back at a restaurant bar in the OC somewhere. So even if you're not up that long, it's still pretty, life-changing money if you're here for even 2 or 3 weeks or even the whole month. That's more than some people make in a whole year.
Yep.
All right, going to come back and finish out these questions, so make sure to keep it locked on Dodgers. Does this sound familiar? You've got a device where you're watching the Dodgers, another device where you might be watching a favorite show. You're watching the Giants game or other sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. It's probably a mess. Well, I'm here to tell you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and it's called DirecTV Stream, and it's a great way to finally get your TV together. It brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no more juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. And the best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can head over to directv.com to learn more about DirecTV Stream. That's directv.com. Compatible device required. Content varies by package. Today's episode is also brought to you by Rock Auto. With the ever-increasing numbers of makes and models, it's now impossible for your local chain auto parts store to stock and have all the parts you need. So why endure often pointless or intimidating questioning? Wait while the person behind the counter orders the same parts on their computer and probably doesn't get it sent to your house. So you're going to have to come back to the store and get it from them. You have access to rockauto.com at home and in your pocket. You save time and money when using it, and you will be supporting a family business that's been serving do-it-yourselfers for over 20 years. Rock Auto prices are also reliably low for every customer. It doesn't matter if you're a mechanic or you work at a car dealership or you're just an everyday Joe. They have the same prices for everybody, and those prices are always low. So go explore their easy-to-use website today and find the solution to your auto part needs. Go to rockauto.com right now and see all the parts available for your car or truck. Right, locked on in their How Did You Hear About Us box so they know we sent you. Amazing selection, reliably low prices, all the parts your car will ever need, rockauto.com. All right, Jeff, let's finish up these questions. The next one is a little bit technical. I know we've kind of avoided this topic, but just it's more of a technical question from Kevin at Bluegoon82. How can the Dodgers get out from under Bauer's contract?
Yeah, and really the only way they can is if Major League Baseball does something for them. If their goal is to get out from under his contract, Major League Baseball is going to suspend Trevor Bauer sometime this coming offseason. The question is for how long. Whatever time he's suspended for, the Dodgers won't be paying him. And so if Major League Baseball handed down a 2-year suspension, which is longer than they ever have, and it's probably unlikely, then that question is answered. Trevor Bauer is no longer he's technically under contract with the Dodgers, but they don't ever have to give him another penny. And so they can reallocate that money however they want. If the suspension is more like a year long, then the question becomes, okay, is Bauer still when Bauer signed the contract, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that he was going to opt out after 2 years because the third year has a much lower salary. It has a buyout. And so basically we all knew he was going to opt out after 2 years. Now, if he doesn't get paid at all in the second year and he is a pariah, and so nobody else is going to sign him, then it seems less likely that he opts out, and the Dodgers would end up having to pay that salary in 2023. And there's not much they could do about that. I do think the Dodgers would likely release him. At that point, I don't think he would actually be on their roster in 2023, simply because at that point they could make a legitimate case that there was a baseball reason. The domestic violence policy does not allow the Dodgers to punish Trevor Bauer for the violation of the policy. Only Major League Baseball can. And that's why the Dodgers couldn't just release Bauer immediately when all this stuff started, even though a lot of people wanted them to. They couldn't. There wasn't a baseball reason to do that. But when you have a guy who hasn't pitched in almost 2 years and is, into his 30s and was showing signs of decline after the sticky stuff crackdown anyway, well, now there's plenty of baseball reasons to say, you know what, Trevor Bauer, we're going to release you. You go on your way. They'd still have to pay him. That's how contracts work. That's why the Angels are paying Albert Pujols almost $30 million this year, and the Dodgers are only paying him the prorated major league minimum. And so they wouldn't be out from under his contract. But I do think at this point, I'm kind of assuming Major League Baseball is going to put down a pretty hefty suspension, maybe even a full season. And so I'm basically thinking that Trevor Bauer is never going to pitch for the Dodgers again.
Yeah. Slight transition from the last part of your answer there comes down to the offseason. And there's a few questions we got about the offseason specifically. Kevin also asked, what does a Scherzer extension look like? We had a ranking question from 2020 City of Cham 1. How would you rank offseason priorities between Scherzer's free agency, Kershaw, Seager, Jansen, Chris Taylor, Trey Turner, arbitration extension, Bellinger, arbitration extension? And then a question from Jenny Casares about Pujols. A Scherzer extension obviously would, the Dodgers would benefit if Trevor Bauer does end up getting suspended, and they know that ahead of time. That's also going to depend on the new CBA and how things happen there. But assuming the new CBA doesn't have anything groundbreaking, the Dodgers can still operate how they are and not lose anything significant for having a high payroll. I would rank Kershaw's extension is probably more important for the Dodgers, the team and overall general, the Dodgers, whereas a Scherzer extension is probably more important for the actual team on the field and how the Dodgers are going to operate in 2022 and beyond. Corey Seager also fits in that role. Those two are probably top two in terms of players for the Dodgers on the field. And then it goes down to Kershaw for me. And then, probably everyone else. Chris Taylor's probably important too, but emergence of Gavin Lux, Zach McKinstry maybe being better than he was or playing more like he did at the start of the year. They could, depend if it's not too much money, they could do that. But I think it's for sure Scherzer and Seager up top, depending what they're going to do with Seager. And then everyone else kind of falls in line after that, with the caveat being, Kershaw is more important for the fact that he's Clayton Kershaw and we want him to stay with the Dodgers for the rest of his career.
Yeah, and the Kershaw thing is going to come down a lot to what he's looking for money-wise with this season, with the injuries. I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago, but I know not everybody listens every day, even though they should. But the Kershaw, when the Dodgers re-signed Rich Hill after they traded for him in 2016, and then they re-signed him after that season, and basically they signed him to a contract that was less than he would be worth if he was healthy, but with the understanding that he was going to miss some time. And so basically they said, okay, Rich, let's sign you to this contract where we're expecting to get 18 or 20 starts from you each year, and we're going to pay you well for those 18 to 20 starts. And I feel like Kershaw might be starting to approach that territory. He's missed time pretty much every year the last 5 years or so. And so, Kershaw is probably, I could see them working out some sort of 18 to $20 million a year deal with Kershaw, where they're expecting him to be really good when he's healthy, but also expecting him to need a month off here and a month off there over the course of the contract. As for Scherzer, Scherzer's older than Kershaw, and you would think he would be in the same boat, except Scherzer's probably going to win himself a Cy Young award. And he is not showing signs of slowing down, at least not showing major signs of slowing down. And so I still think he's going to be realistic about his age. And so it's hard to see him pushing for much more than a 3-year contract. But I think he's going to be expecting big money. I'm thinking 3 years and, around $100 million over those 3 years, maybe even a little bit more. And the Dodgers are going to have a tough decision with him and Seager and everybody else of, okay, are we willing to blow past the luxury tax again? Kenley Jansen's contract comes out the books. Kershaw's current contract comes out the books. They've got some stuff coming off, but with all these guys we're talking about, if the Dodgers, if they put together the team they can afford just purely financially, the best team, they're going to be well over the luxury tax again, assuming the luxury tax looks something like it does right now in the new CBA.
Yeah. It's all going to kind of it's going to be contingent upon that. I know there was the report that they could lower the luxury tax in order to have more money to throw around to other teams in order to make a salary floor. That wouldn't help the Dodgers so much because, you just think about a team like the Rays who operate on a $40-50 million payroll, whatever it is. They can just be like, hey, Scherzer, you want 45 mil and take the rest. Our payroll's already set at 40 mil. You want 45 mil and come pitch first for a year. So I would imagine that's not going to happen anyways. But if it does, that wouldn't help the Dodgers. And that would probably be worst case scenario just for how the Dodgers operate. Obviously, they would still be good and they'd still be able to handle everything else. But it would obviously help some of the lower teams a lot more than it would them. Yeah. But moving on, we got a couple more questions. I'm just going to try to lump some of these because we're getting a little long already. Thoughts on Gonsolin's last outing from Murcielago Man 12? When are the playoff hats coming in? I would imagine they come in the day after this regular season. So I RT like crazy. Will we see Andre Jackson again at Heavy J28? And then is there any thought of leaving Kenley home until they are back from Colorado? He said his worst stretch this year was after their last trip, has had the previous heart issues, and like it or not, he's vital to their postseason success. So maybe we can start there if you want to touch on Gonsolin or Jackson as well, Jeff.
Yeah, on the Kenley thing, I don't think they're even considering leaving him home from Colorado. Hopefully, the offense shows up and Kenley maybe pitches one of the 3 games. It just closes out a 8-1 win or something just to get him in some work. But yeah, I don't think, obviously Kenley's actual health issues that he had in Colorado a couple of years ago are a real thing. I don't necessarily see any reason to think that it was Colorado that broke him around the All-Star break when he was broken for a couple of weeks. I think it was just, that was probably a coincidence that the first bad game happened to come in Colorado, and then, against the Giants. So, for Kenley, no, I don't think they're even considering leaving him home. On the Andre Jackson thing, I guess the answer to this question is I hope not, because if we see Andre Jackson again, it's probably because somebody important has gotten hurt, because they're kind of at the point in the season where they are locking down, figuring out their postseason roster. Even right now, they're carrying like 500 pitchers. They've got, I think it's 16 pitchers right now. Yeah. And that's at least 2 more than they're going to take into the postseason, and maybe 3 more. Just depending on what they do at the roster, but it's hard to see them taking more than 14 pitchers into the postseason. And so they're already in the mode of, okay, who are we going to bump off the roster? And so I don't think, barring a pretty significant injury, I don't think Andre Jackson is in line to be back in the big leagues this year.
Yeah, you have to just say, like, we hope we don't see Andre Jackson because that means something happened. that they you didn't want to happen. As for everything else, Gonsolin's look decent. He probably didn't look as sharp this last time out, but it's still decent enough. And if they kind of put him in more of a reliever role, like Jeff said before, his stuff can play up. So we'll see what happens there. Other than that, I think we touched on all the questions. So thank you all for, like I said, a lot of questions, a lot of different questions, a lot of variety of questions. We appreciate all that. And yeah, Jeff, I think that's going to wrap it up unless you had anything else you want to add.
No, yeah, this was fun. Like you said, we got a lot of really good questions, and this was a fun mailbag episode. The off day, not much to talk about on the field, and so, but there's a lot going on in Dodgerland right now because there's so much that's going to happen in the next 2 weeks that right now we can only guess about. So
yeah, it's going to be hopefully a smooth ride, but it could potentially be a roller coaster here in the next few weeks and leading into October. So that's going to do it for today's episode. Thank you all for listening. Make sure to subscribe to Locked On Dodgers wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube where you can see our faces. If you want to add to your, if you're one of those guys that's more of a visual learner, you can look at me and Jeff's faces while we talk to you. Shout out to, again, I think I shouted him out before, but shout out to whoever I met on the bus last week going to the Dodger game. He was a knowledgeable Dodger fan, and I hope that not just because of us, but I hope that we helped him be that knowledgeable Dodger fan that I really appreciate. Make sure to follow us on social media, Twitter and Instagram at Locked On Dodgers. The DMs are open on all those accounts. You can also find Jeff on Twitter at Snider. I'm at Vince Samperio. You can leave us a voicemail or send us a text at 323-863-5625. Or you can always send us an email, lockedondodgers@gmail.com. We're here every weekday morning, and we hope you'll be with us when you get in your car or if you're at home. Take your smart device to play podcast Locked On Dodgers and subscribe to Locked On Dodgers on YouTube. And I don't know what do the kids say? Subscribe, like, share, all that stuff. Turn notifications on. I still have to learn the YouTube lingo, but
I tune out YouTube every time my kids turn it on.
Yeah,
but not for this show.
Yeah, do all that stuff. Yeah, that's gonna do it. Thank you guys. And I forgot how I usually end this, so we're just gonna end it this way today.
Absolutely.
Have a good one.
We'll talk to you tomorrow.
Locked On Bets podcast is the podcast you need, and betting won't be a guessing game anymore. They have some incredible numbers. They've won over 65% of the bets that they've been talking about on their show. So go check it out with your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. Daily picks, blowout specials, wrong team favorite picks, and Lee Sterling's lock of the day. Follow Locked On Bets podcast brought to you by BetOnline AG, wherever you get podcasts.